Tonight, Niue to send a relief team to New Zealand. Parliament to dissolve end of this month. Chinese billionaire Jack Ma tours Niue. Good evening, I'm Soraya Mangawa and this is your BCN News. Leading our news tonight, the Niue Legislative Assembly is expected to dissolve at the end of this month of March at the last sitting of the Whanoi Kepule. It is also understood that Premier Dalton Tagilangi will be announcing the election dates for this year at this sitting. In our other news for tonight, one new case of COVID-19 was detected in the past 24 hours. According to the Niue COVID update yesterday, 8th of March, Niue currently has 2 positive cases of COVID-19. No previously active cases have been recovered and no cases are in hospital. 792 cases of COVID-19 have been recorded in total since March 2022 last year, when the first index case was detected on the island. 790 of the cases have already been recovered. If you are experiencing COVID-like symptoms such as a cough, sore throat or runny nose, complete a rapid antigen test and isolate at home. Notify the Niue Public Health Department immediately if results are positive and remain in isolation for further instructions. Continue to remain vigilant and follow the health and safety protocols for COVID-19. More information can also be found online at covid19.gov.nu. Niue will be sending down a disaster response team to New Zealand in the coming weeks after Premier Tagilangi's visit to Wellington last week. The team is being organised by the National Disaster Management Office, who are in communication with their counterparts NEMA in New Zealand, awaiting the go-ahead when the team from Niue will leave.
In an interview with BCN News yesterday, Premier Dalton Tagilangi said that during his first meeting with New Zealand Prime Minister Chris Hipkins, he offered support from Niue with a group to help with the isolated smaller communities in New Zealand devastated by Cyclone Gabrielle.
It was good. It was good to embrace each other, given the fact that the challenges that he's facing at the moment and the people of Aotearoa with the Cyclone Gabrielle. But that's important purpose of the meeting, but also to meet and greet the new leadership, and also to offer our support. And that support is I offered up to 5 personnel to help out, and also a kaumatua that can meet and greet the people, especially on the smaller communities, because we've gone through this before, eh? So sharing those experiences and giving them that hope, that it's gonna take a while for them to recover from this, and also offer them such things as taros and coconuts. So that's the best that we can do to help them out.
Premier Tagilangi said that he has also spoken to some of the groups of Niueans in Auckland and have asked them to mobilise support for these small communities affected, because New Zealand has always been the first responder when Niue is affected by cyclones and natural disasters. The team is being organised and prepared by the National Disaster Management Office, NDMO. According to NDMO, they are in regular communication with their counterparts NEMA in New Zealand to better organise this team and which areas they may be sent to. At this stage, the possible areas where the Niue team will provide community-level support are around Hawke's Bay, Gisborne, Napier and Northland, but it is still early stages.
Well, at the moment they are more securing the areas before anyone can move in, so we're looking about 4 or 5 weeks' time. So our grouping and disaster management, they're already sort of getting themselves ready to deploy whenever New Zealand allows us to. So they are preparing themselves just to stand ready.
The team will be led by a local community elder who will be there to provide moral support in solidarity with the kaumatua and elders of these devastated areas. There is also an offer of taro and coconuts, but everything will be firmed up in due course when the team is confirmed and ready to travel.
One of the reports tabled at the last sitting of the Whanokepule was the report from the House Committee. BCN News obtained a copy of the report of the committee to the Whanokepule promoting a paper presented to the committee in December last year titled Towards a More Proactive Niue Assembly. However, a Common Rule Member of Parliament, Terry Coe, told the News of the Week radio program last Friday that this paper was presented by the staff of the Speaker's office to only a few members of the House Committee and that the quorum was not met at this meeting, but it was interesting that the report was tabled at the Whanokepule regardless.
The report to the Whanokepule promote the suggestions made in this paper towards a more proactive assembly as recommendations to be gradually implemented. Veteran Common Role MP Terry Coe said that the report was presented to the Whanokepule despite the meeting of the House Committee not officially a formal meeting because the quorum was not met and it was considered an informal meeting.
The House Committee, the chairperson discussed what was said at our last meeting of the House Committee, which was an informal meeting because there was not enough quorum there. Nothing was actually decided at that meeting about it, but that's what was written down.
The report proposes certain changes to the function of the Public Accounts Committee, providing an explanation that the role of the Public Accounts Committee is to scrutinise the budget of the government and that PAC should be calling for the ministers to appear before the committee to explain their spending proposals. The paper also suggests the formation of subject-based select committees based on government ministries and state-owned enterprises. One of the suggestions is for the standing orders of the Whanokepule to be reviewed at the beginning of each parliamentary term and for the House Committee to lead in the review. The report also discusses the possible compensation for former members, which is currently under consideration by the government, and a recommendation was also made to increase the sitting fees of the members of the Whanokepule to $100 per sitting to be consistent with the sitting fees of government board members. It is, though, unusual that this paper is presented to the Whanokepule a few weeks before the end of the term, when the 17th Legislative Assembly will be dissolved this month.
One of the reports tabled at the last sitting of the Whanokepule was also the interim report from the Auditor General John Ryan. The report stated that significant progress had been made during a period of challenges.
The report states that these challenges include the continuing pandemic and associated travel restrictions and the shortage of auditors. The substantial progress that they have made has been because of a genuine and continuing commitment to bringing the financial statements of the government and its subsidiaries up to date for all those involved, according to Auditor General John Ryan. The focus will now be on the next phase of the project, which is to review and upgrade the government's financial management and reporting systems. This is to address the types of issues which had arisen in prior years so that the government and the Assembly will have sound and fit-for-purpose financial reporting and up-to-date government accounts. Minister of Finance, Honourable Crossley Tatui, welcomed the interim report, saying that the report from the Auditor General is well received by the government. A tremendous amount of work has been done by officials and advisors, Audit New Zealand and the Office of the Auditor General, which the government appreciates. Minister Tatui says the government now looks forward to advancing to the next stage of the project for more timely accounts and reporting.
The next sitting of the Niue High Court with a visiting New Zealand-based judge will take place next week. Judge Miharu Armstrong will be presiding over more than 30 cases over the 5 days, starting on Monday 13th of March until Friday morning the 17th of March. Most of the cases are land matters. The sitting of the Niue High Court will be at the conference room at the Public Service Building in Fonuakula. As the island slowly returns to normal and tourists are returning to our shores, the Niue Tourism Office is also revving up their support and preparation of the local industry. While most of our tourists arrive via the airport, the government last year opened up the seaports for the sea voyaging tourists. One of the key issues identified for yachties are the shower facilities located at the Sir Roberts Wharf, which is in dire need of repairs. Niue Tourism has confirmed to provide funding support to the Niue Yacht Club to tend to their needs. Here's more on this story. The Niue Yacht Club acting president Keith Vial told BCN News that shower facilities for the yachties located at the wharf are in dire need of repairs, and the club is grateful for the assistance through the tourism office. Niue Tourism Director Maika Fuhiniu Viviani confirmed to BCN News that funding is approved to renovate and rebuild the facility at Sir Robert's Wharf as part of their support towards the Niue Yacht Club. Maika Fuhiniu said that with the marine borders open, tourism is working on improving the facilities for visitors arriving via the sea. The work to renovate and update the facilities is expected to start next week. It is not often that people who visit Niue are on the Forbes billionaires list, but over the weekend, Chinese billionaire Jack Ma's private plane landed at Hainan International Airport around midday last Sunday. BCN News understands that he booked a 2-hour tour with local tour operator Explore Niue Tours and Travel. Here's more on this story. Jack Ma is the co-founder and former executive chairman of Alibaba Group, a multinational technology conglomerate. In addition, Ma is also the co-founder of Yunfeng Capital, a Chinese private equity firm. According to Forbes, Jack Ma has a net worth of $23.1 billion and is the 55th richest billionaires of the Forbes list and the 5th richest person in China. Yesterday was the International Women's Day, which is commemorated and celebrated annually. On the 8th of March, it is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating women's equality. Here's more on this story. For the United Nations, the 2023 theme for International Women's Day is Digital, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality, highlighting gender gaps in STEM education and careers, and calling attention to the online harassment many women face. International Women's Day is also a reminder of the long road ahead. Yesterday at the Taonga Niue Auditorium, the National Council of Women gathered to celebrate the day with the leaders of the country. The women in their beautiful dresses and colorful faux shared their stories and poetry with singing and dancing to mark the day. Premier Dalton Tangilangi and his ministers were there, along with the representatives from New Zealand and Australia and the Director General of Social Services, Gayleen Tasmania. They joined Mrs. Nongimoka Bomale, the president of the National Council of Women, and all the girls and ladies celebrated the day. In an interview with BCN News yesterday morning, Premier Dalton Tangilangi spoke of his admiration for his wife Tanya, her role as a mother, and the important role of women everywhere.
And Tanya, when we were living in Australia, and only you two, and you experienced what she goes through when she gave birth to her beautiful children. And I think that's a good thing for any men to experience, is the birth of their children. And I think that you'll really have that respect element for not only for your wife and your families, but the women across the world that are suffering not only from that, but also violence and all these things. Because, you know, the women always does a lot. And I'm thankful. I think the Pacific is trying to take the lead in showing the world how we value our women, and they're not only in the kitchen like they always say most times, but you know, I have had some very good sort of feedback or comments around the leaders in seeing some of the numbers of our women in Parliament and the number of our women that are heading the ministries, and I think that puts us in a good stead in that sense.
A tropical disturbance TD10F was issued for Niue this morning. According to the recent update from 1:30 p.m. today, Tropical Disturbance 10F center was analyzed near 19.0 south and 168.0 west at 10 a.m. this morning and is slow moving, or about 147 kilometers to the east of Niue. The tropical disturbance is located near Square N17 on Niue cyclone tracking map. Global models have picked up this system and are moving east-southeast with no further intensification expected. Potential for this system to develop into a tropical cyclone in the next 24 to 48 hours is very low. Niue Met Service will keep you updated on the Tropical Disturbance 10F. Meanwhile, a further strong wind warning remains in force for Niue and Niue waters. And that is our news bulletin for tonight. Do join us again next week, Tuesday, for a Wangahau Niue bulletin with Losana Sione Holom. Until then, have a good weekend. Good night.